And let's go to our last speaker of today. John, are you there? Sure, I know you're there.
I'm here.
There you go. Excellent. Share your screen and give us a show.
Will do. Will do.
Yeah.
So with the risk of sounding a bit repetitive, we face an immense challenge in the energy system. So we have the rapid growth of renewables as a response to the electrification, all the previously fossil dependent processes we have in society. However, these renewables come with their inherent problems, and this causes disturbances in the power systems to increase. And they've increased up until 2019 with 50% over just a few years. And this has resulted in increased cost in operating and maintaining our power system. And as we grow and as we electrify society, we will see immense sums of capital being invested into the power system to handle the new way and the new primary carrier of energy, electricity. But at least I believe that renewables are the future of the power system. So we cannot ignore their inherent limitations, but we have to solve them. And that's where Krafthem comes in. So we operate a virtual power plant that connects flexibility assets with buyers of flexibility. And what is flexibility? Well, according to Svenska Kraftnät and the Swedish TSO, it's decisive for the future's power system that we have it, and that we have more of it than we have today. And in other words, it's the ability to regulate power when it's required. So on a given signal, can you alter your power profile or power exchange with the power system? Either increase consumption, increase production, or decrease either. And that is flexibility in its very essence. And what we do is that we aggregate different types of assets. So we have producers such as wind, solar, hydro. We have lots of EVs connected to our platform, and we have tens of batteries that's connected, and some industrial processes as well. So our loads or our production units, they vary from 1 kilowatt to more than 10 megawatts in size. So in that sense, we're both looking at decentralized assets, and we're looking at larger traditional like utility scale assets as well. And today we have over 3,000 installations that's connected to Krafthem's platform. And what we do in a sense is that we counterbalance the variability of renewables, but also the inherent reduction in something called inertia in the power system. So as some of you may know, that wind power, solar power, they go through inverters typically. And that has no of the traditional inertia that you see in traditional power plants, such as nuclear or hydro or CHP plants, where you have large turbines that's actually turning, and those actively support the grid 24/7. So as we transition into renewables, we will lose that inherent inertia that stabilizes the system. So we have to actively introduce it. And some of these are called, for example, synthetic FFR, which is or synthetic inertia, that you introduce it in a way that's not the traditional way to provide inertia. And in some sense, flexibility is an insurance contract. We promise the grid owners or the Svenska Kraftnät, the TSO or the DSO, to do something if something happens. And there are lots of different markets that you can sell these to. So I mean, Svenska Kraftnät alone has more than 8 markets. So it's always about choosing the right market for the right type of assets. And then you sell flexibility and you get an insurance premium for it. And then in some instances, you might get more paid if they actually use your insurance contract, but you will always get the insurance premium that you promise to be there and support the grid, which is the fundamental of flexibility. And the key aspect of what we do is not to connect to various assets. Connecting to assets is a must-have for us. We must be able to gather metering values. We must be able to regulate power. That is flexibility. But the key thing in flexibility is decision making, and decision making in real time. So where would you allocate these different assets? How much do you have available? And that you have to predict up to a year in advance, but more typically 2 days in advance. And then you have to decide in which markets you're going to sell this at what prices, and how can you mix assets. So what we do a lot is that we mix assets in a portfolio to create a stronger portfolio of assets that is capable of doing more than any of the parts, or the sum of the parts are able to do otherwise. So we work a lot with AI and statistical models, and we do everything is optimized throughout. And in some sense, what we do is that we're algorithmic traders of power insurance contracts, which sounds very boring, but it's really not. And the market size, I know that Jonas at Finn also mentioned this, is growing rapidly. Krafthem came up with a budget forecast in the beginning of the year that they said that they're going to reach close to 2 billion SEK in 2021. If we look at the actual figures, it's closer to 4 billion SEK, and it keeps growing in percentage every day. I mean, when we come to the current electricity crisis and the prices that Björn from Ferroamp also showed, that's also the case for flexibility and insurance contracts for flexibility products. They have gone bananas a few days as well, and they have increased also throughout the year, as you can see here. So previously, this was a market that was reserved for large-scale assets and utilities, but right now, Svenska Kraftnät are really scrambling to find new assets, and they push out press releases where they just beg for new assets to join their market, and that's where we try to come. We try to play our part in the energy transition and allow for more flexibility assets to be an active participant in our energy system. So that, in a nutshell, is Krafthem. We take no investment costs. We do a pure revenue split to minimize risk, because typically our counterparties aren't experts in ancillary markets, and there's really not many people who are. So we try to do everything we can to reduce risk and just make it an upside, and then we assume the risk in both development and hardware. And that has helped us this far to grow quite fast. And today we're a team of 9 people. We're especially focused, like I said before, in maths, so statistics, machine learning, optimization maths, because that's really the core of what we're doing, is the optimization of where should every single asset play its part in the whole for every given hour of the year. So that's Krafthem.
Great. Thank you so much, John. That was excellent. So can you just elaborate on your thoughts about international markets, and how would you go there and so forth? So if I understand correct, today you're only operating in Sweden, aren't you?
We're only live in Swedish markets. However, we have projects in Finland, Denmark, and Latvia as well.
Okay. Great.
So our ambition is to go live with them as soon as possible. But this type of things, I mean, I think that's worth mentioning as well, that both the sales process and the technical diligence typically take somewhere between 3 to 6 months, and then the integration into the VPP and approval by the TSO is always another 3 to 6 months. So these are quite long processes to initiate, but once they're done, they're pretty much just self-sustaining.
Great. Super. Well, thank you so much.